this is when you guys like, was it a call that you got like saying like, hey, I'm going to the NFL? Like what was that like? Was it like a moment that you'll never forget, or was it like just a moment that came and went?
Oh, it's a moment you never forget.
Like never forget, like you started crying.
No, not for me. When you talk about like Ryan Holiday, like the ego is the enemy and stuff like that. Like when you're in college, or at least then, you're so wrapped up in when am I getting picked and stuff like that. I was the 11th overall pick in 2014.
Right.
And there were 2 tackles taken before me.
Look at you now.
And I was fucking mad. I was livid. And
because people were taken before you.
Taken before me. So
because you thought you deserved to be number 1?
I thought I deserved to be the first or second tackle taken off the board.
Who was the first pick in your draft?
First pick in my draft was Jadeveon Clowney.
Okay.
Second pick was Greg Robinson. No. Greg Robinson, then Khalil Mack.
Greg Robinson was the left tackle, yeah?
Greg Robinson was the left tackle.
It feels like this draft they were picking in dick size. They went down, Clowney's number 1, and then you're the 11th.
Yeah,
you're the 11th biggest dick.
I would have been undrafted free agent. I'd have been fielding calls hoping to get a tryout. That's what would have happened for me.
So you were in, that's very interesting.
Yeah, but it's also...
Forgive me if you guys have spoken about this ad nauseum, but I just think that's fascinating, right? To think, because you're such an elite athlete, if you're the 11th pick in the draft, but you still found a way to be upset, as all human minds do.
But that is like, I think that is plays such a big factor in sports, is you have to have like some sort of like reason to keep a chip on your shoulder, a reason to be like, what's next? You're never in the moment. You're always consumed about what's next and how I'm going to get there. And I'll railroad whoever I got to do to get to the point where I feel like I finally succeeded in everything.
Interesting. Yeah. I heard Joe Rogan say once on his podcast, I forget who, that like you have to create a vendetta with someone sometimes, even though it's not real. Keep it in your head.
Brother,
don't tell them about it.
Yeah.
Keep it, but you have motivation.
Yeah. It is one of those deals, at least for me. I'm sure a lot of guys have different paths, and because you can't generalize everybody. But for me, that was definitely what kept me motivated. Is if I were to have success in a season individually, the minute that success was announced, I would be solely focused on making sure it wasn't a fluke. And people think this is a one-time thing, and you literally tell yourself whatever you have to tell yourself to make sure that it happens again. Right. And it's a brutal way to live your life. But when you get cut, like for a lot of guys, it's way different. For me, the writing was on the wall. I had 2 ACLs in 3 years. So for me, it's like, you have 2 ACLs in 3 years in the contract I was supposed to get to the next year. It's like, obviously this is going to happen. And then have this to fall back on and be like, there's a level of safety and knowing like, okay, like I know there's a way to financially figure out what I want and have fulfillment to where you're like, all right, I'm going to be okay. Which I think a lot of players don't get. A lot of players try to start the next thing before they're even done. And we started this in 2018. And
did you meet on the field?
We played each other in college. Okay. We went to Nebraska, went to Michigan.
But we didn't meet. Like, we didn't know each other.
No, we didn't know each other. I just knew it was a white boy with the last name Compton. I was like, holy fuck, this guy's a problem, probably.
Hell yeah.
Little did I know.
And then you, what were you drafted?
I was undrafted.
So it's for you then, you just got a call out of nowhere, like you're getting to the big leagues.
Yeah, there's like hopes of being drafted in the later rounds, and when it didn't happen, it kind of just happens quickly after the draft. Like, hey, there's a few teams in the mix, and then the agent calls and like, hey, you're signing with Washington. So then the next week you go out to Washington for rookie minicamp and everything else. And then my first year I spent on the practice squad and then was active the very last game of the season in week 1, which was my like moment of like calling my dad and being like, yo, this is fucking, I'm doing it. Like I'm getting called up.
And that must have been a sick call for your dad.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then
Bill loved that.
Yeah, Bill was so fired up. And
that's awesome.
Are you a big football fan? Like, do you know who London Fletcher is?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He's
I like the first team for you is the Redskins. You look like you have the voice of like the guy that invented the name.
that was funny as fuck.
I'm a professional.
But in the second year I made the team and everything else, and I had like kind of like a slower climb and all that, but a lot of my like chip and everything else came with like front office, fans, like just wanting to prove everybody wrong that like I belonged in the league. Right. And could play. And each year was trying to attain like a new level.
And how many years were you in?
9.
Wow.
10 arguably, but.
Also have to cut it?
No, don't cut it. Clip it.
Oh, okay.
What's up?
You said 9.
Yeah.
Y'all had the argument. You played 10 years. Taylor says you played maybe 7.
8 is what I did, but we don't have to go back down that path. I think we've done a lot of work since then. Will played 10 years in the NFL. Everything except for stepping on the field for the 10th year.
Having having the at the serious back and forth. 9, I was about to play my 10th year. I had a gambling show going on, and so the NFL didn't allow me to get back in when I was about to sign with Atlanta last year.
Those bastards.
Yeah, bunch of fucking cunts, dude.
But you're done. You don't want to even go back to the NFL. You would. Interesting.
Depends.
Nice.
For the right
Situational.
price.
Dude,
Yeah.
you should start a football league in Saudi Arabia. That's what I would do
That's
if
where
I
the
were you,
money
dude.
is.
That's where the fucking money is,
I
dude.
tried telling The Rock, I tried making a video and telling The Rock I'd come to the XFL if he came on the podcast, but he didn't want to pick
He
me
didn't
up on
listen
that.
to you?
Now it comes out they've lost millions and millions of dollars.
Exactly. There you go.
So they probably should have made that move.
You know what's
but,
one thing? You know why I pick you over The Rock? You got cauliflower ear. He doesn't. Exactly. I go with a guy with cauliflower ear, dude.
Got to,
all
need to.
fucking day, dude. I'll nibble your vegan ears all day.
But yeah, so that's that story.
But
in a
it is
nutshell.
really like an amazing thing to be NFL players. Like it's such a small percentage of human beings that would ever do that. It's like fascinating. Just think about the amount of people that ever lived and how hard it is to be a professional athlete in America. And both of you guys did that. That has to be, but it is amazing how your brains will convince you, or like Kevin Hart's brain will convince him that your guys aren't shit, and that you'll look at, I'm not Tom Brady. Like Kevin Hart, I'll look at somebody and be like, oh, no, I don't have as many specials as George Carlin or Richard Pryor. Isn't it fascinating? But I think that's a defense mechanism too. Our brains are like survive, keep pushing, motivate,
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I was gonna
imposter
say that,
syndrome,
yeah.
all that shit. But yeah, man, you guys, unfortunately, it didn't work out long term. You're now doing a podcast with me. But on the years that it did work out, it's fucking fascinating. And that's really, really cool.
All good
Yeah,
things
but-
have to come to an end at some point.
Yeah.
But
Well, you could have went into
did the same
broadcasting
thing.
or something.
No, that's overrated, dude.
Is it really?
Yeah.
But you get you only get big
Structured,
money.
you get told what you gotta.
Can't say this. I have to say that.
We get
Make
to
sure
sit
you
behind
watch it,
mics and just
all that.
fucking talk
fuck
about
that,
jerk-off
dude. Yeah, I want
stories
to
and
talk about my
stuff.
ass warts, and I can't do that on Monday Night Football.
Can't do that. Not one
because
bit.
they're pussies.
Yeah.